Well, I'd like to start out today's video by just saying thank you to all of you who have been following along through these last two projects. You thought maybe these were unsalvageable. Many of you thought they should just been put in a burn pile and torched. But we made it through. And this last week of setting the tires and getting the wheels on this manure spreader was kind of a hump in the road. And so I appreciate you coming along through this whole process. I would like to get these wheels painted, and I need to swap the position of the sheep wagon and the manure spreader, and the first shall be last and the last shall be first type of deal. One of the comments that Diane has been mentioning that's coming up frequently is when I built these wheels, why didn't I put a spline, or oftentimes what is known today as a biscuit, why didn't I put a spline at the joint of the felloe sections, and why are they in halves and not in sections? Well, the two are kind of interrelated. The sawn section felloes for one section for every two spokes is a much easier wheel to build, and it's much easier to repair out in the field. And usually a small town blacksmith shop, but not totally so. There were some large manufacturing companies that also built them into spoke sections. But bottom line is they're easier to build and they don't require steam bending abilities. So when the felloes are put in these short sections, one section for every two spokes, you have 6 joints in the front wheel, 7 joints in the back wheel, and they're difficult to keep them lined up while you're setting the tire. And even through the process of driving these buggies or wagons especially with sawn sections, the vibration has a tendency to make these joints slip if the tires and when the tires are starting to become loose. So they are splined. But when a felloe is put on in a steam bent half section, one, it is much stronger because you have no cross grain to deal with. It is all a butted up grain. But they're much more difficult to put on, and your hometown, small town blacksmith shop is much less likely to have the steam bending abilities to make steam bent fellows. So that tends to be maybe more of a larger production company ability. A small town shop could order them in, like is what is common today, but if you were in a pinch and needed something to build wheels with, most likely you're going to saw out the sections, put them in, and send this wagon down the road. So anyway, spline joints are typically related to short section, two-spoke section felloes. Larger half steam bent fellows don't need that spline. One, because there's only 2 joints instead of either 6 or 7. And oftentimes those joints are held together, sometimes with an internal pin, but most oftentimes with a bolt on each side of that joint, and then a felloe plate that covers the joint. So that secures the joint from moving. And in wheels that are usually 2-inch, sometimes 3-inch, but 2-inch and smaller, we'll have these 2 bolts at the joint, and then oftentimes they'll have a bolt either between every spoke or every other spoke. The more narrow the width of the tire, the increased number of bolts that are put in, because through the process of driving and that vibration, it has a tendency to side shift. So they're bolted more frequently. A 1-inch tire will most likely have a tire bolt between each and every spoke, because of this tendency to side shift. A wider tire would have maybe one every other spoke. Sometimes now you get up into a 3-inch wide tire, they will have a double bolt and a felloe plate, or sometimes a single, at the joint, and oftentimes only one bolt right in the center between the 2 joints. But when you get to 4 inches and larger, it is very common that there are no fasteners at all that are put into the tire. And that is the case with this manure spreader. There is no indication, both in the old wood that was left and in the tire, that there was ever a bolt put in these tires anywhere. If you remember the 10-foot tall Holt logging wheels, they were 6-inch wide tires. No bolts were put into those. When I built the 8-inch wide borax tires, no bolts were put into those. Because when you get to 4 inches and wider, you have so much surface contact between the tire and the felloe that it is much less likely to side shift unless they get really loose. And then it's time to tighten tires anyway. So these wheels at 4-inch wide tires don't get any bolts, just like the Holt wheels, just like the borax wheels, either at the joint or through the middle of the tire. So I don't need to bolt these, I just need to get them painted. Well, shifting these vehicles around in the shop is always a challenge. I was initially thinking I would open the front door and I'd roll these both out onto Main Street, jockey them around and run them back in. But Main Street is more and more crowded all the time. When I showed up to work this morning, and Main Street is pretty full unless I go clear across the street. So I don't like to disrupt traffic, but I think because of the maneuverability of the cut under front axle of this manure spreader, I think I can shove it off to one side. I have my planer on this side that is on wheels on purpose, so I can move it out of the way. I need 12 feet, and I have that 12 feet that I can tuck it into this side. I can bring the sheep wagon forward. I'll have to move my forklift out, but I think I can bring this sheep wagon far enough forward, even if I have to roll out on the sidewalk a little bit, bring my manure spreader back around, put it in the position, and bring my sheep wagon back in. The sheep wagon's not quite ready to go. We are maybe 99.9% ready to go. There's a couple little things I need to do on it, and he's actually not in a super big hurry. It's kind of interesting, when I was doing the sheep wagon and I finished the top and I put the stovepipe back in, I said, well, I don't think I'm going to put a rain cap on it. Well, the owner stopped by and I brought that up. So, you want a rain cap on it? And he looked at me kind of puzzled, goes, why? It's going to be inside. Exactly what I thought. Anyway, I'm not going to put a rain cap on it unless the museum itself would like a rain cap on it. So I'm going to move my wheels, move my forklift, move my planer, and see if I can't get these jockeyed around in the shop here. Well, all in all, that wasn't too bad. Just kind of stuff things off to the side, kind of side pass them. This will go home first. It was really nice that Diane showed up at the right time. Just an extra set of eyes to see those corners and if I'm going to hit this or that. Really nice to have, so I appreciate her showing up. That old set of wheels, that's what came underneath this sheep wagon initially. He would like to save those for whatever reason. So I've been tripping over those for 7 months. Nice to get those out of the way. I'll let him pick those up. But through this whole process, this got to see its first light of day. Pretty cool. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.